Welcome to the GateDrop Podcast. GateDrop.com, giving you the jump in motocross news.
Hello and welcome to GateDrop.com's latest podcast. This week we're going to look at the AMS Supercross in Anaheim, the start of the European motocross season, and we're going to start with bad news. Unfortunately, Jeffrey Herlings looks like he's been injured today. This is Monday. A foot injury, we believe. We're not sure of the extent of that yet. But Andy, that seems a bit of a blow for Jeffrey Herlings. I saw a bit of the Spanish action where he went 1-1 yesterday, and he looked like he was just cruising, pulling away. He made it look pretty easy. And just when it looks like he's got a winter under his belt, he hasn't been injured, and he's coming in with huge momentum from his 5th World Championship. A foot injury initially makes you worried because we know how badly his foot was injured previously. So this definitely put the brakes on his World Championship aspirations in 2022.
Yeah, exactly. The one blessing is I think he's injured his left foot this time, and the bad foot that he injured in 2019 was the right foot, so it's different foot. So he's going to have no good feet left. That's maybe the downside to it. Yeah. But is it really an MXGP off-season if Jeffrey Herlings isn't getting himself in the injury list? Probably not. So it's not exactly a surprise anymore when it does happen, as brutal as that sounds, but you do have to feel sorry for the guy. Although I would love to know why he's riding a day after a Spanish championship. I sincerely hope he's doing a photo shoot or something like that. If he's sitting doing motos flat out a day after a Spanish championship, chill out, Jeffrey, flip me.
Yeah, well, he had his latest Instagram post there was showing bright blue sky on his number 1 plate, 2023 KTM. Everything looked fantastic. Not a cloud in the sky, and his quote was the thunder was coming. So maybe he was actually doing a photo shoot because everything looked perfect. So maybe that is what was happening.
That's what I'm hoping.
But either way, it's pretty much a disaster because you just want to see Herlings fully fit and to see if he can get back to that 2018 level after the way he ended last season. And now the door's open, it looks like, for the likes of Tim Geiser and Jorge Prado. We'll talk about Italy that happened on Sunday in a minute. But Jeremy Sear was looking very good there as well. A lot of guys now, this might be their chance to go for a world title again, although they would think that anyway. But with Jeffrey Herlings, if he does make the first round, you'd imagine he's not going to be 100%. And of course, there's the chance then he might not make the first round or first two, depending on how bad this injury is. We're yet to find out an official confirmation, but it's not good either way. It's just how bad it's going to be, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I believe there'll be more news tomorrow, so that'll be Tuesday, and I do believe that he'll be out for at least the first round of MXGP, from what I've been told tonight. So, I mean, if he makes it back at round 2, he didn't score points in 4 motos last year, and he still won the title, so I don't think it'll be a massive concern if he only misses the 1 round. But like you say, it opens the door for the other riders, and they'll be even more motivated for the first round now to go out with a win and say, I'm the man, and send a message to Herlings that when he comes back, they're going to be the man to beat. So it'll certainly be interesting. But also another point is Roman Febvre is expected to race the first round, but he's not. Okay. He's going to be far from 100% after getting injured in Paris. So it's not too bad if you're Jeffrey. In terms of title contenders, it's probably only going to be Geiser and Prado that's 100% at Matterday.
And that's 2 of the top 3 from the championship already coming in injured to the 2022 season. And obviously Roman Febvre probably comes into this as well. Probably won't be at 100% when he does come back, and Jeffrey Herlings, the same could be for him. Will they be able to come in straight and run at the front whenever they do come back to action? The other guys will have the first round nerves all out of the road whenever those 2 come back, and especially to come back fully healthy and competitive to go for those wins. So even when they do come back, even if Roman Febvre is ready for round 1, the other guys are going to have the pre-season. So there's a lot of moving parts already, and we're only, 3 weeks out from the first round of the World Championship, and already things are getting shaken up pretty quickly.
I know, drama already, and the MXGP GateDrop hasn't even gone yet. Madness. But, I mean, we got this every week last year, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of twists and turns, and it was good to see the motocross season come back in Italy. It was great to see, and long may it continue.
And what were your thoughts on Italy? It looked like Geiser and Sear were the class of the field.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was good to see them back in action, and for an international race, especially in that super final, it was very exciting for 4 or 5 laps. Whenever Sear was leading, Geyser sort of, you could tell at different parts of the track, Geyser was quicker, and then all of a sudden, Jago Gertsen's wee MX2 bike was catching them for 2 or 3 laps. They were locked together, and then Geyser pretty aggressive pass on Sear, and Sear tried to retaliate, like, fair play to him. So really good racing, and just a look at the sort of madness that we're going to get in 2022. Bring it on.
Well, it's nice to see Sear Walden, though he had his health issues last year, coming in fully healthy, and it looks like he has the speed already. You mentioned Jago Gertz there. His team manager, Hans Kovers, was talked about in an interview about how well Jago's riding and also how determined he looks at the minute to try and become world champion this year. They mentioned also that the Americans seen how fast he was when he was over practicing there at the first couple of Supercross rounds on an outdoor track, obviously, and they actually wanted to sign him for US Nationals. So for Jago to come back, put in a pre-season performance like he did in Italy, to be running up there at the front and with the 450s, it kind of proves what Hans Kovers was saying, that Jago Gertz is looking really good, and not just on the bike, but also it looks like mentally he's very strong at the minute as well and very determined. So that's promising, because we all know Tom Vial is going to be very strong as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because going into the 2021 season, it was all about Jago Gertz and Tom Vial, really, and the season didn't really pan out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Before the gate even dropped, Jago had a knee injury, and then before the second round, Vial got took out at a practice track. So it'll be interesting to see if they're both fully healthy by the time round one comes, if 2022 will turn into the Jago Gertz and Tom Vial show. But I'm sure the youngsters, up and coming youngsters, will have something to say about that.
And just finally on Italy, anyone else that impressed you feel is worth a shout out, or for folks to keep an eye on this season based on the first round?
Yeah, the first moto, Ruben Fernandez. He came out of the blocks flying, past Sir, and was actually pulling away before he bended. But I think that's probably what we're going to get from Fernandez this year. Certainly doesn't care who he's racing against.
No.
He kind of reminds me of the European Jason Anderson, but maybe not quite as dirty. But if he sees a gap, he'll certainly go for it. But at the same time, he's going to need to try and find a balance between showing the very fast speed that he has and keep it in 2 wheels, because I think he maybe crashed 3 times. But obviously arm pump and stuff played a part as well. And also his teammate Hakan Fredriksson really impressed me on the 250. Terrible starts, which he's probably going to have all season because he's such a big guy, but came through a pack really, really well. So he'll be one to keep an eye on in MX2. And I really enjoyed watching the 125 Dutch kids, Kaz Valk and Ivano van Erp. They were very, very impressive. They dominated that class. So
yeah, they were on another level.
They could dominate the MX 125 championship.
Yeah, Van Erp showed flashes of brilliance. Well, more than flashes of brilliance whenever he was on his A game. Last year in the MX 125. Some people are maybe a bit surprised he hasn't actually went to the MX 250, such was his speed at times last year. But another year in the MX 125 probably doing no harm. You would presume he's going to be the title favourite. Yeah,
well, I mean, before the weekend, he was certainly my title favourite, but Kaz Valk was very, very strong. I think he was actually quicker. He pulled away in the second moto and had nearly a 7-second lead, and he just bent it. And the Mari Fantic team are really, really good working with youngsters. So the only thing is he's not really used to winning at this level. So that's his challenge going into the season. But certainly those two are looking very, very good.
Yeah, no, it certainly whets the appetite, saying the pre-season races, and Brian Bogers on Husky in Spain was also slightly mind-boggling, because you were still expecting him to be on the gas initially. So the few different colours, few different things to get used to. Obviously, Jorge Prado now will be the guy on the gas. So that will be a big deal as well. But Andy, let's move to AMS Supercross, and a big deal it certainly was for Eli Tomac. First win on the Star Racing Yamaha. And after not being the fastest guy, even the week before, whenever he got second, you would say Sexton and Anderson were the fastest. This time it was roles reversed, and Eli Tomac was the fastest, and he beat Jason Anderson and Chase Sexton kind of straight up. They all probably had their shot at trying to win this, and Tomac got the job done and extended his points lead, because let's not forget he ended up with the red plate through his consistency, not his speed, and now it looks like he's found that speed, and the rest might have to watch out now.
Yeah, very interesting. I was intrigued to see what way Eli Tomac was going to react getting the red plate, if he was sort of going to keep the same mindset that he seemed to have had all season, which is, just be consistent. But now he's got the red plate. It looks like he's decided it's go time and trying to assert himself in this championship. And sometimes having the red plate does bring extra pressure, but certainly it looks to have done the trick where Eli Tomac is, and that was definitely the best he's rode all year. Got the win. He's now got a 6-point championship gap, which is a biggest gap as anybody's had so far in this championship. So he'll be looking for more of that now as the season continues.
Yeah, and actually he said something quite interesting. I asked him in the press conference if there was any panic from him with the team after the first couple of rounds, because his riding looked quite calm and control, and I didn't expect him to say there was, but he did say after the first round they were off more than he was expecting, and there was a bit of panic. So quite interesting that while it looked like he was kind of being smart and calm in a kind of carnage situation, that actually underneath the scene, behind the scenes, there was actually a bit of, oh my goodness, we need to figure stuff out pretty quickly here. Now, credit to Tomac and Yamaha. They have been figuring things out. Each week he's got better and better, and that's culminated in that victory. So there has been work going on, and it wasn't all very calm, and we know what we're getting into. Seemed to be definitely we need to figure something out quickly after round one, and they've done that, and he's just went 2-1 in the last 2 races. Tomac's looking like the guy to beat, because Jason Anderson's Chase Sexton now look like his 2 closest challengers, because Cooper Webb, I don't know what happened to him last week, but this was not a very Cooper Webb performance. A mistake. He never had the speed. Usually he can maybe not have the speed in qualifying and practice and come back fighting in the main through his speed at the end of the race or whatever. But nothing really went right for Cooper Webb. And yes, you're not going to count him out of a title, but he's going to have to find something, because at the minute he doesn't have the speed. And now Tomac has the speed, Jason Anderson has the speed, and Chase Sexton looks like he has the speed. Cooper Webb has some work to do. That's one of the big takeaways from Anaheim too, I feel.
Yeah, and I would say I would include Dylan Ferrandis in that too. He also has the speed. Just the starts are more his issue. But yeah, Cooper Webb, that was definitely his worst round of the season so far. Like you said, he didn't really have the speed all night. Usually, maybe even if he struggles the first half of the race, he'll find his group for the second half. Yeah. But yeah, just not a good night for him. So he'll be looking to bounce back at round 5 now, and he's going to have to, because even though he's only 12 points down, a few more nights like that, and the championship can very quickly get away from you. So yeah, he's definitely one that has got work to do. Whereas maybe Anderson and Jackson have a little bit more room for error. Cooper doesn't really have that at the moment.
Yeah, one more night like that, if Eli wins again and Webb's out of the top 5, you're starting to get into 25, 26 point deficit, and that's not really where you want to be, even if there's a long time to go. But Webb, he's bound to be frustrated. We know he doesn't like losing, but you got to wonder, people are going to be looking at Alden Becker, but don't forget it's a new bike. So how much of this is a setup thing? Is there anything to do with Alden Becker? Is it just a sticky period for Cooper Webb trying to find form and momentum? It's hard to know, but the time's running out for him to find his form quick enough to be able to really go for this championship on a straight up pace level with Eli Tomac, Chase Sexton and Jason Anderson.
Yeah, possibly, although I wouldn't panic just yet. I mean, I felt like the 2 out of the first 3 rounds were all right. He was dead on under the circumstances. Just obviously out one round he was sick. I think this is the first. It could have just been a bad night. We'll need to see how he reacts from this. But yeah, the problem is now if one of those guys get on a winning run, that's where he needs to be concerned. But you never know where the results have been going this year. They've all sort of been up and down. So it will be interesting to see now if one of Tomac, Anderson or Saxon can be consistently in the top 3 now. I think that's what it could hinder down to.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it looks like it's trending right now. And for Webb, I think, yeah, you're right. Don't panic after round 4. But for me, round 5 is pivotal, because if that happens again, then it is a problem. If he comes out and he gets top 3 and he beats Tomac by a position, or even if he's just up back on that pace again, then I think you think, okay, fine, he's got time to work with it. But round 5 is going to be pivotal for Cooper Webb, and for Ken Roxon, Jason Anderson's been pivotal, and not in a good way. He's pivoted him off the bike for the last 2 rounds, and that was a big hit for Ken Roxon, who was leading. I feel a bit sorry for Ken, because the last 2 rounds he's actually come back pretty well. He's at good speed. He was leading, obviously, the last round there on Saturday night, and he was fairly well positioned again in the round before that. And both times Jason Anderson just kind of wiped him out. But sometimes I don't feel it's as bad as maybe it looks. Roxon did leave the door open both times, even in the sand there, and Anderson was quite honest in the press conference. He sort of said he didn't want to be that guy, but he is that guy, and the decision to go for the pass maybe wasn't the best one. But certain ways, whenever you look at it, it looked like Anderson kind of had the lead and Roczen sort of came from the outside to try and stop it, and they just came together. For me, you would be Anderson probably more to blame. I don't think Roczen, you could ever blame Ken Roczen. He was just trying to fight for a position. But whether it was a straight up takeout on a kind of Justin Barcia, Justin Bogle scenario, I don't think so. I think it was more on an aggressive move that I don't think quite went how Anderson wanted to go, because he nearly went down too, and that's not what anybody ever tries to do when they make a pass.
Yeah, exactly. It looked worse in real time than what it actually was when you seen it slowed down, because like you said, it was just two lines that met, and Roczen did come across as well, which maybe Anderson wasn't anticipating. And, Roczen finds himself in this situation quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's down to him as well, leaving the door open every single week. He's going to have to start and, if there's gaps there, these riders are going to take the gaps, whether they leave the other rider down or not. So I would maybe be start to look at Roczen more than I would the other riders, because, to be in these good positions and throw it away. He's 3 weeks now. He's seen himself in the ground, whether it's been crashing or takeouts, but certainly not good. And I would like to ask you, though, do you think Roczen, I know he was leading, but do you think he was riding that well? I think if he'd have stayed on, he wasn't riding that great. It was only a matter of time before Anderson passed him cleanly. Tomac was coming, Sexton was coming, Dillon was coming. And, Roczen's the kind of rider that they can get flustered once guys start passing him. So I'm not sure he would have finished on the podium if he hadn't crashed anyway. Now, obviously, a 4th or a 5th would have been better than 13th. Yeah. But I still don't feel like he wasn't riding his best that he usually can, like at the first round where he was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think, obviously, if he was riding at his peak, Anderson probably wouldn't have caught him type scenario to put that pass on him. So I think there is an aspect of Roczen was in that position because Anderson was faster and was able to get close enough to go for the pass. And Roczen's actually said in his press quotes here from Honda that he said the weekend was a nightmare and that he's been struggling with the bike setup, especially in the whoops. So that alludes to what you were saying, that the absolute raw pace probably wasn't there to actually win and maybe even hold Anderson off. Now, he actually alluded to the fact that while he did leave the door open for Anderson, I still don't think, which you probably wouldn't be, if somebody cleans you out in that scenario, you're not going to be too happy with Anderson. And Lars Lindstrom actually said Roczen got cleaned out by another rider. So I think there is a wee bit of tension, understandable tension there, because when it happens twice in a row, and it's not directly Kenny's fault, you're going to start looking at Anderson in that scenario. But the bottom line for Ken, unfortunately, is that he's way off in the points now, and this title is going to be difficult for him. He's now 9th in the championship, despite, as we just said, he had 2 good starts in the last 2 rounds, and even if he'd had a went 5-5, at least he would have been thereabouts.
Exactly. Championship looks, he's going to have to come out and win, you would think, the next 2 or 3 at least to even get himself back in it, but which he's certainly capable of doing, but it's going to be very, very difficult. It really is. 23 points down. Yeah. He can't really afford to lose much else, to at least Tomac, in the next 2 or 3 races. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm sure he'll be very, very motivated, and he'll be looking to stand on the top step of that podium again, especially as he'll probably feel with the takeouts and stuff, things certainly haven't been going his way.
Yeah, I feel this was the round where before it was always carnage and unpredictable who's going to win, who wasn't. Now it looks like those top 3, Tomac, Sexton and Anderson, are starting to really establish themselves, and it's about who can go with them and also who can stop Tomac, because he has actually extended his lead. He's a 6-point lead now over Chase Sexton. Sexton and Anderson, if you just look at the top 3, they aren't going to want Tomac to start eking away these points, even if it is 2 or 3 a week, if they're all going to be on the podium. Now, you obviously have a Ken Roczen who can win a race at any time. Cooper Webb, he's going to have to make things happen in the next round or 2, or he could get left behind from that top 3. And everyone else now, you start to wonder, can they really win races straight up if Anderson, Sexton and Tomac are going to keep running this pace, so that this sort of plethora of riders that all seem fairly similar in speed and that have one good week, one bad week, that's maybe starting to change now, and we're starting to see a pattern of the real title contenders.
Possibly, but like we were saying before, too, not one rider had finished all races in the top 5, so even though those 3 do look to be, rising to the top now, it only takes one bad weekend for things to escalate the other way again, and especially in this championship. So it will be interesting. I think if the top three now can, get top five the next 2 weeks, I think then certainly the championship will start to reflect. But I think the next 2 weeks are going to be pretty pivotal in this championship chase. And also one rider I wouldn't rule out is Dylan Ferrandis. He had an absolute disaster of a first round, and he's only 15 points off the championship. Apart from Tomac, who also had a bad first round, Dylan hasn't really lost points to anybody else. He's only 7 points off. No,
he's 21 back.
About nine. Is it not only 15 off the lead? But he's only like 9 points off second. So considering the start of the season he had, that's not bad at all.
No, I think he's 21 back of Tomac. Miles has never been my strong point though, but from what I can see, Ferrandis,
okay, I thought he was 15.
Still not amazing, but as you say, he's had a 16th. So if you give him 8 points there, 8, 9, 10 points extra, which would have been around top 5, which is probably where he should be, then yeah, he would be right in it. Still not the end of the world, but you feel like for Ferrandis, he's going to have to start winning races to really be taken seriously. It's all right being fast, but if you're not getting the starts and coming back to the top 5, I don't think the likes of Tomac, Anderson, and Saxon are really going to be too worried about him until he can start putting wins and starts together.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about. So it will be interesting to see how it goes. But I think considering the start of the season he had, he's coming back well. So it's just important for him to stay consistent now and getting those starts. That's what it's all about for Dylan, because everybody knows that that's his weak link. But if he can get starts, top 5, he'll certainly be a force to be reckoned with, I think, because I feel like he's the one that probably has the speed of everybody else if he can get out of that gate.
And just a shout out to Dean Wilson, pretty impressive for him, 9th. He said he's been riding well in the off season. He just hasn't felt he's got that performance in him for the race yet, or at least been able to deliver on how he's feeling so good in the bike. This week I feel he did ride pretty well, 9th. Good for him. Shane McElrath, he's got progressively better as the season went on. He got a 10th, and Max Anstey just outside there in 11th. So the Brits are doing well too in the top 11 in the AMS Supercross 450 class is pretty impressive for me. And obviously Shane McElrath, we saw him at the start of the year get the starts and kind of go backwards, although he had a good first few laps. It looks like he's now settling into the season as well and starting to show his true form across the 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly that. Anstey, I did say last week, he's getting close to his top 10. He's went one spot closer again. So he's getting there. In a couple of weeks, you'd think, if when somebody gets injured or whatever, he'll probably be in that top 10, which is really good considering he's shown a lot of progress. Another rider that impressed me actually was Brendan Hartraft, 12th. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. So.
He goes quite under the radar, but definitely a 12th for him was good. Malcolm Stewart, 5th. Talking of going under the radar, I feel that's where he is at the minute. He's riding good. He's getting good, consistent results. He's in that mid-top 10 all the time. Just looks like he's missing that extra wee bit to really go at the very front of the pack. But still, he's putting the points on the board. And Marvin Musquin, 6th. I think after what happened the week before to go from 1st, I think it was 10th. 6th isn't a bad rebound. It shows he was able to get his mind together again for this week. And when you're battling around with those guys, that's still no disgrace. He beat Justin Barcia and Cooper Webb. So a decent, if maybe slightly unspectacular, comeback from what looked to be a bit of a mental unraveling for Marvin Musquin a week ago.
Yeah, just on Stewart, it's funny when we talk about consistency, Stewart has probably been one of the more consistent riders. Most weeks he has been around that 5th place mark, but unfortunately to actually challenge for a title, you need to, win, or if you can't win, even get on that podium. But he is knocking on the door, and considering how under the radar he's been, for him only to be 15 points off the championship lead isn't bad at all. If he can just try and get at least a podium or a win, you can't rule him out. But he'll certainly be happy with the season he's been having so far. And Musquin, you're right, he needed the rebound this weekend really after the mental collapse the week before. So steady Eddie, 6th, will do the job and hopefully help his confidence heading in for the rest of the season now.
Yeah, and the next round, of course, is the Triple Crown at Phoenix. So there'll be 3 main events, as it were. None of the heat races, so that could change things up. You can maybe afford a bad moto, and if you've come back with two other good finals, that'll probably salvage your day. So that'll mix things up. You might get the guys who maybe don't have the fitness to do 20 minutes at the pace of a Tomac or Anderson or Sexton. They could get in amongst it as well, especially on the first main event. So it's something different. I quite like these triple crowns intermittently put through the season. It just spices things up, makes things a bit different, and it gives the riders something extra to think about and maybe different strategy, especially in the third moto if they're trying to ride for an overall or if they have to go for broke to make up points back on their rivals.
Exactly. Yeah, I am a fan of the triple format, so it definitely will add another element to it, let's say. So it'll be interesting to see. And I think the tracks get even more challenging when it's a triple format too, which is always a plus, I feel. So certainly be interesting. So it will. Who's your money on this weekend?
It's hard to know because the guy who could win the overall mightn't actually win a race.
I've been wrong every week so far because I'm just going for the outsiders chance. So I think I'll be boring this week and say Anderson.
Paper web starts. I'm gonna go Sexton.
Sexton, fair enough.
The starts are quite good.
Not a bad shout.
Probably not by either of them then.
No, probably not. Probably Barsha this week. I said him last week. Finished 7th.
Yeah,
this
Barsha,
week.
if he gets away, he's got that explosive, and even Ken Roxon. If he can avoid getting, if he can look in his mirrors and notice Anderson is around him and then not go wide, that could probably help him. That's actually one of the things about Roxon. I think I said it last week as well, but is he too nice? And you mentioned he left the door open. Is he riding a race that he maybe needs to start thinking how other riders would do in their mind instead of just racing in his own mind, because he maybe wouldn't have made that move Anderson made, but it doesn't mean Anderson's not going to make that move. So exactly. Going wide thinking, I wouldn't make that move, so Jason Anderson maybe isn't the way to think. He maybe needs to start thinking about Justin Barsha or Jason Anderson behind him, and you need to be wary because I think Ken Roxon is kind of too nice on track at times.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, to be honest.
Oh, I thought you were going to give us more insight.
No, nothing more to say. If you've hit the nail on the head.
Right, well then we'll move on then. That was great from you. 250 class quickly. Christian Craig, it looked like he'd give everyone a bit of hope. He'd third last week despite a great ride from the back. Then he had that crash in practice, and then he didn't get the start, and Moseman was leading. And then in the end, it didn't matter. Christian Craig still did what he had to do to get the race win. Hunter Lawrence couldn't get the second. He got third. So that gives Craig an 11-point lead. Moseman actually was a good wee buffer there for Christian, and it's very hard to see unless he has a disaster now how Christian Craig can lose this championship, because last 2 weeks the other guys had their shot and Craig's kind of ended that back on top.
That's it. Although if he is going to lose it, that's probably going to be the way he will lose it. That crash in press day. Yeah. Pretty lucky to walk away from that one. So he's used one of his 9 lives anyway. But yeah, on the track, he's just superior to the rest in that class. So impressive to watch, but at the same time, looking forward to seeing him moving up to the 450s to see what he can do. I think he could surprise in a 450. I really do.
Yeah, I'd really like to see him on a 450 and around this year, just with the confidence and form that he has at the minute. I mean, his whip speed was fantastic yet again.
Exactly.
And then you've seen what happened with Vince Freeze and the unlucky Joe Shimoda, who just, even if he's riding good, Joe, it seems to go wrong for him, even if he doesn't do anything wrong. Wrong place, wrong time for him, and another crash for a guy that doesn't really crash except this season. It seems to be going all wrong for him. He's probably more crashes this year than maybe his whole career combined, it feels like.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference a year can make sometimes. Shimoda, everything was grand, so smooth, always looked in control. And even this year, when it's not his fault, things are still going wrong. It's amazing the differences an off-season and a season can make sometimes when there is expectation on your shoulders. But he'll be able to learn from this for the future, so it'll make him a better rider, I think.
Yeah, I think, as you said, this is probably one of his biggest learning curves, kind of a painful way to do it, but he's shown the consistency, and now he's trying to find that wee bit extra speed, and that balance is looking like it's a wee bit tough for him at the minute. But that's Supercross wrapped up with Triple Crown next week. We'll have more international motocross next week. It means it's very busy. Lots to watch, lots to keep an eye on, and lots of stories unfolding in every scenario. And again, we'll have this Jeffrey Herlings situation, unfortunately, which for me, and despite all the racing this weekend, that is the big downer. And it's just coming tonight there, just before we recorded this podcast. So definitely that's put a downer on the the whole weekend on Herlings. Let's hope it isn't too bad and he can still contend for this title, because the last thing you want is all these top guys injuries dictating who wins the championship. You want to see it on the track, and the fastest and the best guy to win it.
That's it. That's what it's all about. But and of course it happens the same day that we book the flights to Matterday. That could only happen.
Yeah,
you book the flights then. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened to me one other time before too. Booked flights to Lama one year, and then the same day Herlings injured out. Great.
Well, probably should have
well, I would go anyway. It's MXGP at the end of the day, so hopefully he just misses the one round. If he misses the one round, it makes it even more exciting. So last year the excitement was just unbelievable.
You have that with Herlings. He wasn't supposed to ride in Holland with the shoulder blade, and he still did. So with Jeffrey Herlings, you never quite know what he'll do whenever he puts his mind to something. But yeah, definitely not the news you wanted to just on the eve of a brand new World Championship season. But that's unfortunately the way it goes. And in Jeffrey Herlings' life, it's definitely the way it seems to go, unfortunately for him. But yeah, so we'll have to digest that news. Still look forward to the season. Plenty of racing to come, and you never know, it might be another Herlings comeback. Last moto, last lap, last corner type fight again, because it looks like he's going to have some points to make up in the likes of Tim Geiger and Jorge Prado. Okay, that's enough talking for another weekend. Andy, I'll speak to you next weekend after the Supercross, and then it's Hawkstone on Matterley. Some exciting outdoor action again after a winter of indoor racing. So I'll speak to you then. All the best, and don't jinx any more riders, please.
Good night.
Night.